All right. Thank you very much, Elise. And out front now, a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican Congressman Dana Rohrabacher. And great to have you with me. I appreciate it. When you look at this, of course, Congressman, not a single meeting between Trump associates and the Russian ambassador was disclosed. Not in national security clearance forms, not to Congress, not until the meetings leaked to the press. Could they have avoided all of this if they had just disclosed these meetings, if they were so insubstantial in nature?
Well, they weren't substantial in nature, and you're putting sinister words out there to make it sound like something sinister have. Somebody meets somebody in passing, that's considered a meeting. One guy, Attorney General Sessions didn't remember that he had a third conversation with this man instead of two. How sinister is that? Come on. This is so much to do about nothing. That is just incredible.
But the reason that I raised the question is you could say these meetings were all so insubstantial they don't matter. That is possible that that's the case. But there still is this question that not a single, but these were members of the Trump campaign, Trump associates, right? Not a single one of these meetings was disclosed by anyone.
Okay, wait a minute. How many people, I'm going to ask you right now, if you think they should know that, how many meetings did Hillary Clinton and her people have, especially in trying to set up these type of contributions to the Clinton Foundation and the speeches that her husband would be giving and receiving money from the Russians?
And Congressman, I would say that would be relevant if she was the president of the United States, but she's not. Donald Trump is, so what he did with the Russians is obviously, I think, arguably much more significant right now.
No. Half of what you're talking about is when he was running. Okay, when he was running for president, but you don't know that about Hillary because you haven't looked into something about millions of dollars from Russian oligarchs going in there. Instead, you're trying to make this look like Attorney General Sessions is doing something sinister because he forgot that he had one extra conversation with the Russian ambassador who is supposed to have all kinds of meetings with people.
So just to be clear, what I'm asking you is, if it wasn't sinister, why didn't they tell us about it? We don't know whether it was sinister or not, right? All we know is that there was a failure to disclose meeting after meeting after meeting after meting after meeting.
No, it wasn't meeting after meeting. Attorney General Sessions had three I don't know how long the conversation lasted. He had three of them over a long period of time, and during that time period, he had thousands of meetings and thousands of conversations. You're trying to make it look sinister that he only remembered two of them. Come on.
Again, I think I've made the point of what I think the fair question is, which is why they were not disclosed. That is a crucial question. If they could answer that, but I want to because you're giving your side of this, Congressman. I want to ask you something about your knowledge of Russia. Okay, you've had a lot of contact with Russians. This is something that you have been very open about. Back in the 90s, you met then Deputy Mayor Vladimir Putin. You said you arm wrestled him in a bar. That's a lighter one, but of course. Last year, you met privately with a Russian confidant blacklisted by the Treasury Department. In April, you met with an alleged former Soviet spy. You've been vocal in your opposition to sanctions on Russia.
When was that? No, hold on. When did I meet with that alleged Soviet spy?
That was in April.
That was that was 10 years ago. Okay. That was 10 years ago. I was warned by the FBI that one of the guys I talked to was a Soviet intelligence guy. And I treat everybody from the Russian embassy, everybody from all the other embassies.
So I just want to be clear, our reporting, Congressman, is that was in April 2017. So I can just go on our reporting. But let me ask you the question.
That's when you reported it. It happened 10 years before that.
Okay. In the New York Times is reporting that the FBI warned you, as you point out. They're saying the FBI warned you in 2012 that Russian spies were trying to recruit you specifically, Congressman. You've obviously strongly denied spying for Russia.
That was 5 years ago, and then there was one 10 years ago as well.
So were you, Congressman Rohrabacher, aware that they tried to recruit you?
I was aware that when people, whatever embassy is talking to me, especially the Russian embassy, they are trying to do the job of their government, which is intelligence, and you assume they are intelligence people. All of us do that. That's why there are so many meetings, and you're ignoring all the meetings that Hillary and all the other guys went through, even when there was money being transferred, but now you want to focus on that. Okay. Yes, the answer is I'm always aware that anybody from the Russian embassy is probably involved in intelligence.
And I would imagine part of the reason you're aware of that is because you are a sophisticated Washington player. You have worked there for a long time. You worked for Reagan. You've been in Congress for nearly 30 years, Congressman, right? So you understand the game.
I was a special assistant to the president. I actually fought Russians in Afghanistan. I have been engaged in the fight against the Soviet aggression all of my life. Okay, from the time I was a teenager.
Right, and I'm saying you're a sophisticated player, so you may know how to avoid becoming an unwitting spy, right? And you're obviously aware that in his testimony, the former CIA director John Brennan recently said people can become witting or unwitting spies for Russia. So you're aware of the risks when you had all of these meetings. Do you think, Congressman Rohrabacher, that Jared Kushner, who had zero government experience, tried to end around the U.S. system to talk to Putin confidants, had the ability that you have to avoid being an unwitting Russian asset?
Sure he did, because I'm sure that when he got back to the White House and his inner circle of the people he works with, he was able to accurately portray to them what he'd been talking about. Of course, he's surrounded by experts.
So you have no concern.
That's what they have in the White House.
You have no concern about his meetings, whether it be with Sergei Kislyak or, of course, with the chairman of VEB Bank.
Well, first of all, the ambassador is supposed to see all of these people. That's number one. This Russian ambassador is supposed to see that. And again, whether this young man had the experience enough to understand everything that was being said and the maneuvers that were going on, when he got back to the White House, I'm sure he talked to the people he works with. He was surrounded by them.
Which, Congressman, brings me back to the question. I think we've come full circle, because if we take your point as a fair one, then when he was filling out his national security form, why would he not have included this meeting? If it was important enough for him to know that it was important to talk about to people around him, wouldn't it have been important enough to disclose on your national security clearance form?
Well, you know, I just have to tell you, I don't see anything serious about people who make paperwork mistakes, and sometimes when they've had thousands of conversations to forget they had an extra one instead of one. You can make that sound sinister, but in nowhere near sinister as what you're ignoring with Hillary Clinton's people taking millions of dollars from Russian oligarchs.
I understand your point. I'm simply saying you're trying on the one hand to say they were so insignificant they didn't remember them, and then the other, they knew how significant they were, so they tried to tell people around them, which seemed to obviously be contradictory statements.
No, it's not a contradictory statement, because when someone meets you because they happen to be someone who works for the Russian embassy, maybe they wanted to talk about how we could have space cooperation, you know, or something like that. There are a lot of areas we can cooperate with the Russians, and that's what I'm all about. I think that we should, instead of talking about Russia as if it's still the Soviet Union, we should find ways that we can use them to defeat radical Islamic terrorists, work in space. This cooperation rather than hostility towards the Russians, I believe, is best for America. And I've been called a Soviet dupe for that.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. And I want to ask you about that before we go. Because the Washington Post, as you know, Congressman Rohrabacher, recently obtained a recording of House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy. And in that, he was talking about you and Trump and Putin, okay? And here's what he said, quote, "There's two people I think Putin pays, Rohrabacher and Trump." Now, he's later tried to say he was joking. What do you say, though? That the majority leader would even say that about you?
Well, let me ask you this. Did you hear the tape?
We have not heard the tape, no, because the Washington Post has it. It was played to them, so this is their recording.
It's been played over and over again. It's been played over and over again. You didn't hear the tape. I can tell you what's on the tape. Laughter.
I know, that's what I said. He said he was joking, but I'm asking you, why do you think he would even say that about you as a joke?
Why? Because I am someone who speaks his mind. I am someone who is advocating something that a lot of other people are afraid to advocate because they'll be called names and be made fun of. And I think it is so serious that with the radical Islamic terrorist movement that are murdering both Russians and Americans, it is imperative we work with the Russians instead of treating them like a hostile power.
And so can I ask you one thing? Because I just want to interrupt you on this point, Congressman, because you're saying that we need to work with them when it comes to radical Islamic terror. John McCain actually disagrees with you on this. He says that Vladimir Putin is a greater threat to the United States than ISIS. Let me just play for you what he said.
I think he is the premier and most important threat, more so than ISIS.
Is he right or wrong?
Yeah. John McCain, the guy wants to go to war everywhere in the world. It's all okay. That's fine. McCain is a war hero, and we know that. But the fact is that does not make him right on this at all. The fact is, use your common sense. When radical Islamic terrorists are murdering our people all over the world, trying to shake the courage of the West and cower us away. And we need to work with Russia to defeat that force. And those people who don't think so and are always trying to find some negative thing, and Russia has lots of negative things to bring up. And you got to try to find those areas you can work on. And otherwise, it's bad. It's harmful to our security not to do that.
All right,
and I get all sorts of personal criticism and people making jokes about it. But I'm going to keep up saying the truth because that's what's good. Donald Trump has that same kind of courage, I might add.
All right, Congressman Rohrabacher, I appreciate your time. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.